Welcome to our video, a series of them, where we'll be sharing on some basics of gardening. And today, I want to take you through some very basic aspects of what you may call urban gardening, where space is limited, but you can then multiply the space and be able to produce enough vegetables for family use and probably even for business. Now, what you're looking at is an example of what we call a vertical garden. And under this particular one, we've just newly planted managu, which is barely 1 week old. And we want to visit this in another video and see what comes out of it after a few days. So from this vertical garden, we can have close to 140 plants of managu. So we will be telling you later on how many kgs you can harvest or what quantity you can harvest from one single vertical garden. And then I want to take you to some which we planted early and under different type of vegetable. I think you can clearly see that is the sukuma wiki. The sukuma wiki has been here now for about 2 months and we are already harvesting. Yes, some of them need to be filled because we planted during the dry spell and some section of it dried. So we are in the process of actually replanting. I can take you to one that we just replanted a few days ago. Yes, that one didn't pick so well, so we are replanting where there is space. But if I take you to some of them, the plant population around it is very good. Look at that bush. That is a bush of sukuma wiki. Look at that. I want you also to notice that some leaves are yellowish. That is an indication of lack of nutrients and mainly lack of nitrogen. And we'll tell you how to cure that. We have a system around here in a small space that allows us to have actually generate our own manure for use. We do purely organic farming. We don't do any chemical input. And that is one way ensuring that we eat healthy and grow healthy food. So we don't do any chemicals. If you realize that your crops are not doing well or they are diseased, one major indication of or cause of that problem could be the nutrition level of your plants. If they are not well fed with good manure and, plants, just like human beings, they have to feed. And how do you feed plants? You make sure that you provide good source of nutrients, and that is where the aspect of manure comes in. We will talk about that briefly in the next point after this. So just look around, enjoy those vertical gardens. And I can tell you this is within a small space of, this is almost 12 meters by 12 meters, and I have an average of 40 vertical gardens. So that is actually a very small space, and 40 vertical gardens is an equivalent of, if you're doing a crop of sukuma wiki, those are 120 plants times 40. That will give you, I think, 5,200 plants. Conventionally, that will go to a very big space, almost a half an acre. But you can also see we have spinach, and you can even see the background is around a house, right? Look at that. Plant of spinach doing well, though we need to boost with the nutrients, that is manure, so that the crops will be much healthier than they are. That is why you can spot some yellowish and others drying kind of. That is lack of nutrients, basically, which can be cured by making sure that you have manure. Right here, we have 2 jerrycans, 200 liters each. The ones in blue, you can see them. Let me zoom close and you can look at the content. That content is darkish. It's already decomposed. We are already using that. In the next jerrycan or container, you see it's full up to the top. We've not started using, but we can now mix and use. And the procedure is simple. You can collect, let me give you an example of what you need. You can collect the leaves and the green matter that you pick from your garden as you clean through the plants, through the vertical gardens. And this is a collection of leaves of spinach and I think some bit of sukuma wiki that I collected. You put it in the container, the 200-liter container. You also mix that with some bit of animal manure, whatever that you may find, cow dung, chicken droppings, goat droppings, or sheep droppings. That will be sufficient. Then you make sure that the content in the jerry can, in the container, is 3/4, almost full. Then you cover it for about 1 week, let it kind of decompose. Of course, it will generate some strong smell as it decomposes, but I think it's bearable. It's not something that is going to irritate. And then after 1 week, you can now top up with water up to the top. Make sure now the water covers all the container up to the top. Then let it settle for 2-3 weeks. Then after that, you can thoroughly mix, hoping that it will have decomposed and even the green matter turned kind of grayish or darkish. And then what you do, you apply around the garden. For us, we use the vertical garden. So what we do, if I get close, you can see that around the vertical garden, we poured the liquid content, which is the liquid manure. After mixing, make sure you mix thoroughly the liquid manure. The 200-liter container should be diluted into 4 portions. That then gives you 800 liters or 800 kgs from the initial 200. Because if you don't dilute, it will be too strong. It may burn the crops. So we've already done that. If you look at now the newly planted managu, we have applied the liquid manure, and we want to visit here after 1 week or so to show you what comes out of what I've just planted. These are very newly planted, transplanted managus, and we will also be able to tell you how much we are able to collect from this as we'll be collecting. So for now, that is where we are. Looking at the top of one of the vertical gardens, you can see some green content coming up. This is actually serving as our seed bed. We planted managu there a week ago. And because we had enriched that with our liquid manure, I'm zooming on different ones so that you can see. Because of the liquid manure, they have been able to germinate under 1 week. And look at that, just barely a week. 1 week old, and that's where we are. Approximating that at this rate, in the next 2-3 weeks, we should start transplanting to other places. So we want to fill many of these gardens with managu, because around this time, there is a big demand for managu. Having had a long dry spell, there's still a shortage of vegetables. So we are moving in with speed to ensure that apart from sukuma wiki that we are still supplying now and plenty of spinach, we will also have plenty of managu. Now, look at that. Several of them bearing that. So that is where we are after 1 week. And then after 1 week of transplanting, you can see around there. That is how they are doing. The advantage of vertical gardens, that in a small space, even where you've bought a plot in town, you can practice what is called urban farming. Then you can intercrop, you can mix the crops. You don't have to do one single type of crop. You can have managu, you can have sukuma wiki, you can have spinach even on the same vertical garden. So I want to take you to another section where I'll show you what other things we've planted around a very small garden of less than 20 by 20 meters. Now, around here we have a plantation of pumpkins, and we are mainly targeting the pumpkin leaves. And in between we've planted the tree tomato. So around here you can look at a section where we have spinach doing quite well. So that is spinach on vertical gardens, a total of 10 of them. So 10 times an average of 120, we are looking at 1,200 plants, which conventionally will take a very big space in the open, but we've taken a very small portion and we're able to get a lot from it. For the spinach, we have averaged, if you get one vertical garden that is well managed, then you can get up to 10 kgs, 10 kilos of spinach every week. That is with the best care, you can actually get there. I want to move you closer to where we have planted one of the beds right on top. What you're looking at, these are seedlings for capsicum. Sometimes you call them green pepper or hoho. They are ready to be transplanted. In fact, we have already transplanted some. So those are already done. So just looking at the spinach doing very well, very well. And to keep it healthy, we said you need to make sure that every time there is plenty of manure. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Then in the open, we have a section where we've planted the pumpkins, which are already pumpkin leaves, which you're already harvesting. And then next to that, we also have now this is in the open. Now this we are not using the vertical gardens. We are utilizing the remaining space, which is in the open. Next to that, I'll move a bit close. We have after spinach, we have a plant of managus on the ground. I don't know whether you may be able to see so well. These managus were partly affected by the dry spell. We irrigated. It's now that they're coming up. And then in between, you may see some plants looking like sukuma wiki. This is a plantation of kanzera or sarat, which we had grown here early, and seemingly there were some seeds on the ground. So they're still growing, and we didn't want to destroy all of them. But they are mature. We may have to uproot so that they don't suffocate the managu plantation we are targeting here. On this portion, we have heaped some manure, which is a mix of chicken manure and cow dung, and it's fully decomposed. This is actually in one of the pits, and so this is where we get and then transplant and transfer to the jerrycan that we saw early, where we make the liquid form of it. The liquid manure, the advantage is that the process breaks down and prepares the nutrients in a faster way, as opposed to applying directly to the crops and waiting for the nutrients to be ready. And so it will take a long time if you allow or you use the traditional method. So by using the liquid manure, we've shortened the period of breaking down the manure into a form that can be used directly by crops. So that is where we get to store our manure, and we cover it very well so that it's not wet or it's not rained on. So as I said, we have to cover well. So there's a plastic material there that we cover with right there, so that if it rains, then it doesn't rain on our manure, but it keeps on breaking down even where we have kept it. Right here, we have a section of our compost pits, which is a strip going down almost like a meter, and we get all the green matter and everything else, the leaves and even kitchen waste, all that we are not able to put in the jerrycan, the container, to decompose. Then we put it here in preparation. Now that section, we are looking at the kanzera or sarat, which is already mature. We're already harvesting and actually even selling. And you can see it's like a bush and a forest of that. So in a very short span, like in 1 month since the rains came, we have been able to turn the garden into being that green. So really, there is no excuse for somebody not to make it in gardening, but you need to spend time and do it right. Yeah, just look at that. Very big leaves, healthy. And as we indicated earlier, we are not using any chemical input here whatsoever because of the risks and the dangers that the chemical inputs pose to our health. Thank you so much.